Good morning and welcome to As Goes Wisconsin, Monday, October 23rd. Greg Bach is on the board, our Monday co-host, while Kristen is off on maternity leave. Todd Allbaugh, who you work, I mean, is there anywhere that you're not working? Is there an air shift that you haven't covered yet?
I tried the street corner here on State Street, and I got arrested. So that's the only place I'm not
Okay.
working currently. But, no, it was it's fun. Look at Phil Nee and Chad Holmes, guys that are doing high school sports. I mean, they're the hardest working people here. I'm just a guy that shows up at a mic with coffee.
Oh, you keep yourself pretty busy, and your show's starting today at a new time.
Yes, I heard the promo before we came on. Contrary to the promo, yes, and really, Jane and Greg, this is a lifelong dream of mine. I am now getting paid to have a nooner, so you can join me.
Oh my God, Todd!
You can join me every afternoon. We're back.
Is your show
back.
called Afternoon Delight?
No, but it should be.
It could be.
We are soliciting new names for the show. So maybe
Afternoon Delight with Todd.
Afternoon Delight with Todd. I like that. One of the rejected titles was Pillow Talk with Mike Lindell. So
that title seems a little lumpy to me.
Oh yeah, nice.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. So yeah, noon. Here's what it is. It is a 4-hour power period of As Goes Wisconsin and Todd. We're back to back now, and I could not be happier because we can do crossovers. It's just, I feel like I've rejoined the party with As Goes Wisconsin, and quite frankly, if anything, if we could just, if we could leech onto the popularity of As Goes Wisconsin, we'll be great.
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. I love listening to your show. I always learn so much, and you have a lot of great guests on too, and so it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I talked to Kristen a little bit about it last week, and in seriousness, I think we are going to do some crossover things from time to time, and I think our two shows complement each other pretty darn well.
Absolutely.
So I'm happy to be here noon till 1, or maybe only noon to 1, noon to 2.
Noon to 2.
And then after that, it is 2 big hours of Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn is so big, you can't fit them all into 1 hour.
Yep, you had to spread them out a little bit. Well, that's great. So that's all starting today. So right after As Goes Wisconsin, you want to stay right here for the nooner debut of the Todd Allbaugh show.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
oh my God!
Yeah, we're gonna start off by talking about the latest efforts by the Whoop 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 Boing Caucus. Still no Speaker of the House. They are going to be meeting later tonight. I believe it's around dinner time
for a secret ballot, because you have to suss it down. Boil it down, winnow and sift. You can't have 9 people on the floor to vote for. So they're going to do a secret ballot and get it down to, as Charlie Barons would say, a couple 3.
A couple 3. A couple 2, 3. Yeah. So among the hats in the speaker race, we're just going to go through them one by one, all 9 of them, not too in depth. But Representative Kevin Hern, a Republican from Oklahoma, he supported Jordan's bid as speaker, but he says he's a different type of leader with a proven track record of success. Okay. He did vote to overturn the results of the 2020 election.
Yes.
And actually, there are only 2 who did not vote to overturn the election, but then they signed onto that amicus brief to try and knock out 4 states. Remember
Jane,
that?
The bar here is simply, will you vote on the floor to certify a legit election? That's where we're at now. I know. If you're willing to say, yes, reality is real, then hey, you're a candidate.
But that's always been our problem, Todd. Again, we can't all agree that gravity exists.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so another one, Republican from Texas, Pete Sessions, previously chaired the House Rules Committee. He's 68 years old, 11 terms in the House.
Here's a fun fact about Pete Sessions, because at one time he was kind of a big deal, a little bit like Britney Spears. But anyway,
Watch yourself, Todd. Watch yourself.
And so Pete Sessions was elected in an area of Dallas, a suburb of Dallas, and lo and behold, people actually kind of got informed, and the demographics changed, and Pete Sessions found himself without a job. So what he had to do is he had to kind of like, back in biblical times, go home for your census. He had to return to his hometown of Waco out in western Texas, more conservative, and get reelected to a completely different district that is more conservative. So this is Pete Sessions' session go around, not quite as punchy as he once was.
Well, that's going to be interesting. He also is one of the House Republicans who voted against certifying the 2020 election. Then we go to Georgia, Austin Scott, a surprise speaker candidate, apparently. He did support Jim Jordan in all 3 rounds of voting. After, Jimbo lost again on Friday, that's when he threw his hat in the ring. He's 53, and he said lawmakers did not have the power to overturn the results.
Right. So it's Austin Scott, not Steve Austin, the $6 million man.
That's correct.
Austin Scott from Georgia and Tom Emmer of Minnesota, the only 2 of the 9 who actually voted to certify the 2020 election.
Yeah, and Tom Emmer does not have the support of a lot of Republicans, at least from what I've been seeing, and Donald Trump does not like him.
No, they've had a campaign since Friday, the Trump folks, to try to knock him out because, Trump doesn't like people who don't suck up to him. And so, Tom Emmer is already under fire. I mean, if, being serious for a second, I probably wouldn't vote for any of these people. But if I was forced to vote for someone on here, it would probably be Tom Emmer because he has a little bit of Midwestern common sense. He actually did vote to certify the 2020 election, and he doesn't seem like a hyper-partisan. And probably most of all, Donald Trump hates him. So I mean, if Trump hates
there's
you,
a reason.
If Trump hates you, I could probably be okay.
I can warm up to you a little bit. Yeah,
Right,
I can warm up to you. From Florida, it's Representative Byron Donalds, relative newcomer to Congress, but he is only 44. Staunch Trump ally.
He a staunch Trump ally, and also under the Chris Licht era, former CEO of CNN that tried to make things quote unquote more fair and balanced.
Right.
Byron Donalds was on kind of the whack job train on CNN pundit panel, and just, I mean, it was a complete mouthpiece for the mega faction. So, I mean, basically, Byron Donalds is Jim Jordan without all the sexual assault baggage.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, really, he's that far right.
Another great choice.
Yeah.
We're going through the 9 House Republicans who are going to be running for Speaker of the House. From Michigan, Representative Jack Bergman, retired U.S. Marine Corps Lieutenant General. He's running for Speaker. He is confident he can win the votes where others have not. 76 years old. He signed a pledge to support the ultimate Speaker designate on the House floor.
Yes. Well, 76, apparently he's also taking a lot of pharma money from Viagra, but I'm not sure what that means.
That's just speculation. We don't know that for sure.
We don't know that. But things are looking up, I think, for Jack Bergman. We'll see.
All right. Louisiana Representative Mike Johnson, he announced on Saturday that he was going to run. 51, an attorney and former radio host, chair of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution. He also contested the results of the 2020 presidential election. None of these are good choices.
No, but you had a note that I did not. I did not know that Mike Johnson was now, was he a legit radio host like us, or was he one of these people that he goes in once a week for a radio show and the host does all the work? I don't know.
This article does not go into great detail about that, so I can't make a determination one way or the other, Mr. Allbaugh. From Pennsylvania, Representative Dan Moiser, serving in the House since 2019. He's 59. He signed that amicus brief supporting a lawsuit that would have invalidated the results of the 2020 election in 4 states, including his home state.
I love the fact that he put this out and said he will be focused on politics of inclusion.
That's a bad word.
Right. But they clarifies that and says the idea that every member of the GOP conference should be part of policy making, legislation, and communications. So he's all about inclusion for Republicans.
For Republicans. Oh, well, now that tracks, though, doesn't it?
Right.
That absolutely tracks. Mm-hmm. From Alabama, Representative Gary Palmer, late addition to the speaker list of candidates. 69 years old. He also signed that amicus brief supporting the suit to invalidate the results of the 2020 election in 4 states. So on that issue, they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Right? So the two did vote to certify the results, but then they tried to go around it in another way anyway.
Right. No, it's. I mean, people are saying it's a clown show. A lot of people are, and it is. But it's also just extraordinarily disappointing. And in today's world, it's extraordinarily dangerous. Not only are we having I shouldn't say unprecedented, but certainly it's one of the most dangerous times, not just for the United States, but around the world since 9/11. And it is also, we are now under 30 days, I believe, from going off the financial cliff of having a government shutdown. And we have nobody in the House of Representatives who has negotiated with the Senate and the White House to keep government going.
That's terrifying. I heard something over the weekend, and I can't remember who said it, but talking about when that CR runs out. Yeah. Oh, no one's going to start talking about that until the day before.
All right.
They're just so nonchalant about it. Yeah, the government's going to shut down. Meh.
Remember, Jane, maybe they're maybe so nonchalant because remember, members of the House, they keep getting paid.
How is that a thing?
Right?
How can that be a thing? That seems
because
not,
they always take care of themselves first. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Maybe on the other side we could talk a little bit. But one of our congresspeople from Wisconsin, Derrick Van Orden, decided to take a powder on the House Speaker race, and literally has gone off the ranch on this.
Yeah.
If you want to see me just with too much time on my hands on Twitter, I respond to almost everything he's posted.
Do you really? Did you see all the wacky posts this weekend, Greg?
Which one?
All right.
We'll come back. We're gonna
come back. It's Jane's show, Todd. Stop. Just calm down, Todd. What's coffee?
We'll come back and kick around. Well, not literally. Derrick Van Orden from Wisconsin's 3rd District. That's all. Coming up, stay with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin. You are listening to the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin 1021. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bryan. Greg Bach is on the board. And our colleague and friend Todd Allbaugh joins us every Monday in the first hour while Kristen is out on maternity leave. If you want to catch up with her, she is joining us every Wednesday now at 10:30. So make sure you tune in on Wednesdays at 10:30, although you should be listening. We are talking about, and if you ever want to check in, 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Talking about the continuing clown show in Washington as the House tries to find a speaker. And there's a great opinion piece in today's Cap Times from Dave Zweifel. And he basically says, too, the soundtrack for Wisconsin congressional picks is Send in the Clowns.
It's true. It's embarrassing, right?
Yes.
It's just embarrassing. And you've reached an embarrassment point when I believe it was Friday. You can correct me, Greg, if I'm wrong. Friday, it must have been Friday because we used it on our show. Even Scott Fitzgerald, colleague on the Republican side from the congressional delegation in Wisconsin, called out Derrick Van Orden and said, well, I don't know what this guy's, he didn't say, I don't know what this guy's doing, but he's like, yeah, he should be here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
It's an embarrassment that you had everybody on the Republican side who was here, who voted for Jim Jordan.
Right.
And to be serious for a second, a guy who allegedly was aware of and informed of sexual assault by a team doctor at The Ohio State University while he was an assistant wrestling coach and refused to do anything. Then later called said wrestlers, begging them not to make this public because it would hurt his congressional career. He was also, according to Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee, the key architect in Congress that helped Donald Trump try to overturn the will of the people of the 2020 election. That's just fact of a bipartisan commission coming from Liz Cheney, who is a lifelong conservative Republican. And every member of the Republican delegation of Wisconsin voted for this guy. Yep. That's an embarrassment.
Well, and again, I go back to something that Tom Tiffany said last week about how we're not like Democrats. We're independent thinkers. We're all independent thinkers, and we don't just line up behind, and march in lockstep. Oh, really?
Apparently not, because Jim Jordan could not get elected.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of, so let's go to Derrick Van Orden, who on Thursday left for Israel and then was not there to cast a vote on Friday. And Greg, I know you follow him on Twitter.
Oh, I do.
And Todd, are you following him on Twitter?
Oh, yes.
Actually, I don't follow him on Twitter. His stuff just appears on my timeline, so I really get the best of both worlds.
So what was some of the stuff he was saying over the weekend? Now he's there, he says, on a fact-finding mission.
Yeah, so over there, he's just been posting every single picture he can take with people and pushing this agenda that the people, the elected officials who are supporting Hamas need to get out right now because they are on the wrong side of history. And the question I have, Representative Van Orden, is I have two questions. One, why are you over there? Two, who are these secret representatives and elected officials who are supporting Hamas? They're not, I mean, if you, there are people out there who think if you support Palestine, period, the Palestinian people, you're supporting Hamas. I don't know if that's what he means, but he's just flat out saying it's like this secret group of people, and he's out there to find out what's going on. And he's taking pictures with whomever he can and posting them on every single picture. And he's just getting the stuffing kicked out of him by the people around him. Because, like, one, you went in the darkness of night. You didn't tell anybody. There was an important floor vote, one that you were talking about all week, and then all of a sudden you were gone.
Whoosh.
Gone in the night. So this all looks really bad for you. And it does, because he looks like he's standing up for something that no one understands what he's talking about.
We have a texter checking in, West from Middleton. The crazy conference doesn't want the government to govern. They're not going to work too hard for a gavel that they will simply use to shut it all down again in 2 weeks. I don't see them getting there. I think they're going to need to coalesce with the Democrats, or the Democrats are going to need to support a moderate themselves. I can't ever imagine. Can you imagine what Republicans would do to fellow Republicans who worked with Democrats?
They would be primary to be out of a job.
Exactly. Out of existence.
Yeah.
262 checking in. What are the current betting odds for who wins? I don't know. I don't know any bookies. We'll have to check on that. The real loser in this House Speaker debacle is my liver.
that texture and me both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's this making himself more important, right? Because it's just, this is all about him.
Well, and the weird thing is with Derrick Van Orden is, to Greg's point, he did this in the middle of the night, and I haven't been able to independently confirm this, but there are reports that he did not even tell his staff. And
I heard the same.
As a former congressional staffer, that is not only unheard of, that is like this individual. I want to be absolutely serious for a second. We make jokes on our show, whatever. This doesn't appear to be a well man. And I hope that his staff and his family around him get him some help, because I read this long diatribe that he wrote before, saying he was going because he made a promise to the Jewish people.
I saw that too.
And look, you have a contract with the people of the 3rd District who voted to send you there, all of them, Republicans and Democrats and Independents. You should be there for a vote for Speaker of the House. More so, you had an independent congressional delegation on the Senate side. Mitt Romney talked about it this weekend on 60 Minutes, that went there to support the United States. Derrick Van Orden is going against all norms by calling out the president on foreign soil. The man just doesn't appear well, Jane and Greg. I'm serious about that.
Yeah, I think you make a very good point. We're going to keep this going after the bottom of the hour break. Stay with us. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matnair in for Kristen Bry. Greg Bach is on the board. Our friend and colleague Todd Allbaugh, our co-host for the first hour every Monday, while Kristen is out on maternity leave. And you can always check in with us at 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY if you want to call and or text. We've been talking about Wisconsin Congressman Derrick Van Orden, who took off Thursday night, went to Israel for his own fact-finding mission, apparently. Jim from Appleton checking in on the text line. Has anyone ever verified Mr. Van Orden's Navy credentials? He certainly is not acting like any special forces person I've ever met, and I know a few.
I think that, in fact, I wrote this down over the break. I have Van Orden flak jacket, and where are his fellow SEALs? I think it was Jack. Was it? That's his name.
It was Jim.
Jim. I'm sorry. Jim has nailed it. Because, number one, I never served. I want to say that right up front. I never served.
Neither did I.
I worked for military affairs for 5 years in a congressional office and got to know a lot of people who do, and I have the utmost respect for every man and woman who puts on the uniform. But a couple of things. Number one, Van Orden, maybe Greg, you saw this. He sent out a couple of tweets this weekend of him with a flak jacket on with the plates, and the way that he was wearing it, it went way down. It basically exposed his heart area, and he was wearing it almost around his belly. And there were military people from the 3rd District that responded and said, "I've never seen a Navy SEAL wear their plates like that." In other words,
Wow.
if you were actually a Navy SEAL, you would know how to wear a flak jacket. And number two, and again, agree or disagree with people like John McCain, the fact is when he was campaigning not just for Senate but for president, and the same thing honestly goes for John Kerry, the Democrat, when he campaigned for president, they would have on the stage with them the people that served with them in their unit and say, look, I was in Vietnam with John Kerry, or I was in the Hanoi Hilton with John McCain. Here's a person that you can trust. Here's a person who has character.
Right.
I have never seen a fellow Navy SEAL with Derrick Van Orden on any stage or anybody with credible evidence that says, hey, I served with him. Now, look, I'm not saying, I haven't looked up his immediate credentials, but I guess I would just ask our listeners, particularly the 3rd District, particularly those who have served, don't you think this is a little odd? Because there are people, to Greg's earlier point, that are taking Derrick Van Orden to task, Republican voters in the 3rd District, for this weird behavior.
That's such an interesting point, Todd. But I would have to think that if you make a claim that you're a Navy SEAL and you're not, and you never served as a Navy SEAL, wouldn't people have been coming out of the woodwork by now?
I hope I would trust the Democratic Party ops, group, opposition research, that they would have verified that. But, maybe he served. And again, I hats off to anybody who has truly served. But anybody who wears a flak jacket, their plates like he did over the weekend in Israel, it certainly doesn't look like someone who especially has been a Navy SEAL. And again, I just simply ask, where are the people who served with Derrick Van Orden?
He did post a video of what he referred to as his friend and Navy SEAL basically spouting off the same way he does about, Biden's agenda and everything like that. And he's not in the picture. He's not in the video. He's just saying, this is my friend and former my friend and fellow Navy SEAL. I mean, a cursory search online says that he was a Navy SEAL from 1988 to 2014. And I feel like if he wasn't at this point,
right,
someone would have called him out. So I'm not calling him out saying he was never a Navy SEAL, but I mean, at this point, he just doesn't. I mean, like the whole flak jacket thing, people are making a big deal out of, but I just feel like that's the smaller issue, is the fact that he's over there, like as you said, Todd, calling out the president on foreign soil on policy. And I mean, just Navy SEAL or not, this guy just does not get it. He does not get the protocol.
Good heavens. Do you remember when the Dixie Chicks were in London when George W. Bush was president?
Right.
And I mean, that blew up their careers.
Yeah, they really never recovered. They released their first record in almost a decade and a half, like a couple years ago. I mean, that truly ruined their lives.
And they're entertainers. They weren't actually members of Congress on foreign soil criticizing the president.
I agree with you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Back to your earlier point, though, Todd, I agree with you that there should be some concern about his well-being as a human being.
Yeah.
We know that they suffered a family loss. He and his wife lost one of their daughters to cancer, which is tragic. But again, in this opinion column in the Cap Times from Dave Zweifel, he does a little recap of the behaviors of Van Orden that should be concerning for everyone. He says he talks like a proverbial drunken sailor whenever he gets angry, which apparently is often. And so there are anger issues. There are maybe some emotional issues. And like you said, he took off Thursday night and didn't tell his aides. Right. How would you have reacted if the congressman you had been working for just went up, I'm gone?
The first call would have been to his spouse, And instead of you heard from him, I mean, what's going on? Because you always watch out when you're a congressional staffer. I mean, I ran the Wisconsin office for my former boss, so I was, basically the number 2 person in charge. I mean, when you're at that level, your first priority is always for the well-being of of the member and their family, right?
Sure.
Quite frankly, and so I would have called his spouse, and my second call would have been to House leadership. And again, this is a time when normally House leadership would be all over this. There is no real House leadership because they're trying to elect a speaker. It's in complete chaos.
Yeah.
And so there's no accountability from his caucus, from the leadership side of things. It's just, again, I worked for 5 years for a member, and this is so far off in behavior that I can't even put it into proper words. This would just never happen to a normal congressperson. And so, or one that's healthy and well and following protocol. And again, within Congress, there has always been, whether it's spoken or unspoken or written or unwritten, there's a certain way to do things.
Right.
You take fact-finding missions in a bipartisan way. To Greg's earlier point, when you're on foreign soil, particularly during a conflict, a potential conflict, there are ways that you behave. And also, don't forget, there are still over 200 hostages being held by Hamas. I believe 20 now are still Americans. There are still 400, I believe, Americans in Palestine who are trying to get out. There are negotiations going on right now with Secretary of State Tony Blinken. Very tense, high-level, tinderbox negotiations. And one rogue actor like Derrick Van Orden can completely destroy this. And it shows his complete lack of foreign policy understanding and his complete lack of American citizens and their safety to insert himself in this without going through the proper channels. And let me quickly add, look, if he wants to speak out, look, freedom of speech, that's fine.
Sure.
But you don't go to a foreign soil in a war zone and do this and put American lives at risk.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, I think there are people in his base who will see this as he's a leader. He doesn't, he goes his own way, and he's a manly man who takes things into his own hands and isn't following the rules. And we like those rule breakers.
You know what I would refer people to? I'm not sure if you guys saw this over the weekend. I follow Arnold Schwarzenegger on Twitter, or Twix, as Craig Fergus likes to call it as well. There is a great 12-minute, I don't know what you want to call it, presentation talk by Arnold Schwarzenegger over the weekend, because of course his father was part of the SS, and he visited Auschwitz, and he goes on to tell about how terrible his dad was, and going to Auschwitz and this awakening, and he does it much better than I ever could, and connects it to what's happening here at home, and says, look, if you are someone who has been sucked in by algorithms on social media, if whatever your circumstance is, hate is easy, that's weak. And strength is looking internally as to how we can grow as people. And I think it really speaks to, instead of just, to your point, Jane, these people back in the 3rd District who may be voting for Van Orden and thinks this is manly, just take a look at yourself. Take a look at what's easy. Take a look at what he's doing, playing on hate and fear versus on strength. And sometimes that requires self-examination. And I think that's how all of us, including myself, grow.
I what's interesting is you don't see a lot, if any, fanfare, whether it be colleagues, voters, anybody who are saying, good job, good idea. Like, and I'm not saying that to be funny. I mean, he's literally a man in a country by himself. I don't think he took staff at all. I think. And so, like, this could be a consequential action. This could be really bad for him. I mean, from the optics of just re-election, there are people out there who want that seat, and he could get primaried out for being. I just don't see I don't see this having the victory that he sees in his head.
Well, and I also wonder how, with no formal, this was not a formal visit. He did this on his own. He didn't have. He isn't using government contacts to talk to people within the Israeli government. So, how are you getting your facts, Derrick? Are you just talking to people on the street? This is your fact-finding mission? Texter wanted to know if he's back yet and what he found out. I don't know that we know where he is right now.
As of yesterday, he was still there. I can check out his Twitter here.
Yeah, his Twitter. I mean, it's literally him standing with people and just saying, this is so-and-so. This is what happened to them. And that's not terrible to let us know who the people are and what they're going through.
Of course not.
But at the same time, that's this huge like red flag of a person wearing a flak jacket. You're like, yes, but why are you there?
Well, and as Todd said too, we're in the midst. This is a very fraught, tense situation right now, and to put yourself in the middle of that and in potential harm's way.
Right. I just checked his Twitter. As of 4 hours ago, he was tweeting out video that he appears to have shot in Israel. I'm not sure if it was sent from Israel, but it was posted 4 hours ago from Israel. Then he just immediately after that attacks Liz Cheney because she was on Face the Nation over the weekend. And he just tweets out the results from the primary in Wyoming in which Cheney's Republican conservative primary opponent won. I guess that's the point that I ask our listeners over in Eau Claire and La Crosse and Richland Center and Amory to think about, and Wausau, quite frankly, some of that goes into the 3rd District. Ask yourself if this is normal behavior. I mean, not even Fitzgerald, not even Grothman, not even Tom Tiffany are this erratic. And there appears to be something very wrong with this individual. I think the folks of the 3rd District deserve better than that.
Absolutely. And I would like to, if he has issues, I would love to see him get some help.
Yes.
You don't want to wish ill on anyone. You just hope he can get well. Speaking of Liz Cheney, we only got a couple of minutes left, but she said over the weekend that she's not ruling out a run for president. Although isn't she just so widely despised now by MAGA Republicans?
Well, I think it was put in the I saw that, and I think it was put in the context of, if it's Trump versus Biden, she clearly is never a Trumper, a never again Trumper.
Right.
She wouldn't commit to saying she'd vote for Biden, but she didn't say she wouldn't. So she got a lot of flack for that. And there seems to be a line of rationale that if all this court stuff goes and actually somehow could knock Trump out, she's trying to reserve the opportunity for her to run as a Republican in a Republican primary if there was no Trump involved. I think that's kind of the political strategy, but I don't want to speak for her. That's just kind of, punditry.
Sure. But it just seems to me both she and Mike Pence are so widely reviled by a large right. portion of the Republican Party and the electorate that that would be a tough climb.
I agree, Jane. I don't see how Liz Cheney could win any Republican primary right now because the mega crowd, hates her.
We're going to switch topics when we come back to something that's also painful. We're going to talk about the Packers.
Welcome to Pain in the Morning with Jane, Greg, and Todd.
The Pain Hour. We'll be right back.
Ooh, I got my bikes here. Oh,
this is As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. Jane Matt there, in for Kristen Bryan, Greg Bach on the board, Todd Allbaugh, our Monday co-host for the first hour. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, that game yesterday. Not
Painful.
good. Not good. And I had it was the House of Pain. Ended up with the Packers losing to the Broncos 19-17. And I did have the game on in the kitchen, but I was doing some work, so it was kind of background stuff. But I tuned in towards the end and really started paying attention when they scored. And it looked like we can do this now.
And then
we had that little thing called an interception.
We pooped the bed.
And also some really untimely penalties as well that also led to that. And
was that just carelessness, or is it?
I mean, I think that's one of the things that's most concerning for me. Look, they're a young team. I think that most of us, and I'm no Mike Clemens here. I'm not a sports professional, but I follow the team. It's important to the state. I've been a lifelong Packer fan. I think if you care about the Pack, if you've been following them, most of us knew this would be potentially a rebuilding year. And I think that Jordan Love has come in and done pretty well considering the circumstances. But what's more concerning than the loss is how they lost. Whether it was the untimely penalties, the sloppy play, and then, the untimely interception as well. If you play well, if you play clean, and you just get beat, you think, well, you know what? You got the fundamentals down. You build from there. But when you're not playing clean, that I think is more disturbing. And don't forget, Denver was 1-5 going into that game. And believe me,
Well, we gave him a gift.
I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he played at Wisconsin, got us to a Rose Bowl. But holy cow, Denver has just looked terrible this year, completely disorganized. And to go out there and lose to them the way we did, not a great day for the Pack.
That's something that was
Paul Noonan.
Paul Noonan said last week, that the Broncos have the worst defense in the league, and he said, these are his words, if we lose to them, that's telling. Yeah. We should be able to beat them, and we did not. We didn't beat them. We didn't even come close to like anything. Like it was bad.
Well, and for
bad.
all of the talk about how the Broncos defense is so bad, I've been seeing a lot on Twitter about how horrible our O-line is.
Right. Yeah.
And just not protecting him. God, I mean, he got swarmed. Jordan Love got swarmed a couple of times.
That's a great point, Jane, because again, I don't have a real problem, and again, who am I? But just as a fan looking at him, I think Jordan Love is doing about as well as you could expect for someone who's taking over from a legend once again. And don't forget, Aaron Rodgers' first year as the main QB was not stellar either. So I to me, you're 100% right, Jane. It is the what surrounds him or lack thereof on the O-line. And again, it goes to this fundamental play. Not unlike, I know we're talking about the Packers, but quickly, not unlike some of the complaints with the Badgers this year, where again, they haven't been able to protect their quarterback either. They pull out a win this weekend taking on the Burts of Champaign down in Illinois, old Brett Bielema down there. They this new redshirt freshman quarterback, he comes in because the main quarterback, Mordecai, got his hand broke last year.
Right.
This kid comes in, and on a fourth quarter drive, they get a last-minute touchdown to seal the deal on kind of a trick play. It was creative. And I think if you look at the Packers, maybe they have to get more creative and just use the personnel that they have. It's not Aaron Rodgers' team anymore.
No, it's not.
And I think you have to have the personnel, you play the personnel you got, and be a little bit more fundamentally sound.
It's disappointing, and I hate to see people calling for Jordan Love's head already.
No, you don't do that.
It's like, people, calm down.
Look at what happened in Chicago this weekend. You had the quarterback, the big quarterback what's the heck's his name? The guy from Ohio State. Anyway, he got hurt, and they bring in this kid who's like a rookie who barely got drafted, and he wins. He gives the Bears a win. So I mean, you can't just put it all on the quarterback.
Absolutely. 844-967-2789, 844-96-PARTY. Gary from Sussex, what do you want to say about yesterday's loss?
Well, first off, it's Justin Fields from Chicago.
Thank you. Not enough coffee. I appreciate it.
Okay. We all knew that it was going to be a bad year, but it still hurts after 25 years of winning football, But I was telling my wife, as we're not going to make the playoffs no matter what. And I said, we'll be lucky if we go 8-8. Well, I don't think we're going to go 8-8, especially after losing to a team that, like Denver, that lost, 70-0 a few weeks ago or whatever it was, So, yes, it's bad. So I was telling my wife, I said, what we can hope for is actually, if we're not going to make the playoffs, why not just lose the rest of the games and get the number one pick, So that's my theory.
But then, when in your opinion, though, what do you use that number one pick for? I mean, are you ready to jettison, Love already and try to get a quarterback, or what do you go for with the number one pick?
I guess some big guys on offense, I guess, maybe some good guards. I mean, I'm all for playmakers, like receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. But Jordan Love, I think he's going to be great. I really do. Even when he threw that ball, what he should have done was he should have thrown it to the corner by the 20-yard marker. So, and the other guy that was covering him, he had his back to him. He didn't even know where the ball was. The guy who intercepted it came all the way from the other side. The left side went all the way across, So, yeah, that was a stupid play. And the look on his face is like, well, okay, that was bad. But instead of being all pissed off and everything like that, I think he's got a lot of poise. I really do. I think as time goes on and he starts getting used to it and the team believes in him, I think in 3 years from now, he's going to be a star. I really do.
That's great, Gary. We're coming up against the break, so we're going to let you go. Thank you so much for checking in, though. And I'm delighted to hear him say that I think Jordan Love is really talented too.
Yeah.
And as
Yeah.
you pointed out as well, Todd, I can remember the first couple games Brett Favre played
Right?
where it was terrifying.
Right.
You never knew it was like
The gunslinger.
the pitcher in Bull Durham. It's like,
Yes.
I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know
Yeah.
where the ball is going to go. You never know.
Came in
So,
relief
yeah.
for Magic. Don Mikowski.
Don Mikowski. So let's give Jordan Love a little love, and hopefully next weekend will be better. All right, Todd. So great
It's
to have you
always
on the show.
lovely to be with you two. You know,
Well,
It was delightful.
it's a great way to start a Monday. Have a great second hour. Greg has a very beautiful, colorful shirt on. What is that, Greg?
The Lakefront Brewery. It's our
Oh,
support for the queer community we had last month. Money goes to the LGBTQ community center in Milwaukee. So
cheers.
so it's
All
there you
right.
go.
We'll see you next Monday. You
Take care,
stay with
guys.
us. News is coming up next. You're listening to As Goes Wisconsin. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.